Breaking news at 6 in the case of a Portland mother whose body was found near a Ridgefield barn. The key development in the search for her killer. Plus,
it's hot outside, but area bodies of water are still freezing cold. Coming up, we take a look at what experts say you need to be aware of if you're going out to rivers this weekend.
And later, the Rose City in full bloom.
We love the city and we want others to remember how much they love the city.
The unusual displays bringing some new life to downtown Portland and beyond. Good evening, everyone. We want to get right to breaking news in the case of a Portland mother who authorities say was murdered and then whose body was dumped near a barn in Ridgefield. Investigative reporter Kyle Aboshi is in the newsroom with some brand new reporting. Kyle.
David, we've learned that the Multnomah County grand jury is expected to hear testimony next week surrounding the murder of Joanna Speaks, one of at least 5 women who went missing and turned up dead across the Portland area last year. Detectives believe Speaks was killed in Portland, although her body was found in an abandoned barn in Ridgefield, Washington on April 8, 2023. The 32-year-old mother died of blunt head and neck injuries, according to the Clark County Medical Examiner's Office. No arrests have been made in the case. Last summer, the Associated Press, the Oregonian, and Willamette Week all cited law enforcement sources who identified Jessie Calhoun as a person of interest in the deaths of several women whose bodies were found in wooded or secluded areas around Portland between February and May. Calhoun has not been charged in any of the deaths. He's currently being held at Snake River Correctional Institution in eastern Oregon on charges unrelated to the women's deaths. Calhoun is scheduled to be released from prison less than a month, June 7th. Last year, Calhoun claimed he'd been wrongly accused in a series of messages sent to KGW through an inmate communication system. Quote, "I'm no killer," he wrote. We reached out to Calhoun's public defender about the upcoming grand jury, but have not heard back. Speaks' family said they weren't prepared to comment on this latest development. Back to you.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate your reporting and the update there. All right, let's talk about the heat now because it is 90 degrees, give or take, in the Rose City on this toasty and in some spots blustery evening. You're looking live at the Rose Quarter where there are 2 big events. Pearl Jam's going to be rocking Moda, and then next door at the Coliseum, the Portland Winterhawks are opening their WHL Championship Series against Moose Jaw. Let's get right to team coverage. John Adams is on the Clackamas River, which is running cold despite how warm it might feel on its banks. But first to Chief Meteorologist Matt Zafino. And Matt, sounds like we broke at least one record today.
We did. We broke a few, and I can tell you it's going to be a lot warmer in Portland tomorrow than it will be in Moose Jaw. So let's take you outside right now. There's Mount St. Helens. We're still at 90 degrees, humidity at 17%. Amazingly dry air and amazingly warm for this time of the year, so much so that we did break records. Out of the coast, too, made the 80s there. It's down to 76 at Cannon Beach, but like 2 hours ago, it was 85. The winds are out of the west, a little bit of a sea breeze kicking on in. Stronger sea breeze coming tomorrow to cool the coast off, but the valleys only see a little bit of cooling. So here are the numbers from today. 88 in Hillsborough, Portland was 91, Vancouver was 90, Kelso was 90, Scappoose was 91. This is really the hot spot in Oregon today. I mean, Roseburg made 91 too, but nobody was warmer than Portland this afternoon. So let's look at the records that have fallen so far today. Portland 91, breaking the old record by 2 degrees. That was last set in 2019. Vancouver 89. McMinnville tied its record, but that record is from 1936. So, you know, what, almost an 88-year-old record there that was tied today. Hillsborough tied its record at 87. So really amazingly warm for this time of the year, and it's going to continue in the valleys tomorrow, even though we drop a couple degrees, but still 89 for early May is pretty impressive in Portland. The coast, as I mentioned, though, begins to cool off tomorrow. Highs there will be in the 60s, not the 80s, so significant cooling there, and then we'll realize that cooling as we go into Sunday here in the Western Valley. So more comfortable for Mom's Day, even though today 91 was in the 80s most of the day, not too bad. The other story we're following, David, of course, is the massive solar flares that have been emanating from the sun and already sparking the aurora over parts of our planet. More on that for you coming up during the story at 6:30.
Yeah, because I had to check, 78 degrees tomorrow in Moose Jaw.
See, we're going to blow them out of the water.
Thanks, Matt. All right, let's continue our team coverage now with John Adams live overlooking High Rocks on the Clackamas River. Really popular spot to cool off, John, though that water is still really cold.
That's right, David. It is very hot outside today, but like you said, area rivers are still extremely cold and they're moving very quickly. And officials say that combination can be dangerous if you're not careful. The Portland area is getting an early taste of summer this Mother's Day weekend, and many are taking advantage of the warm temperatures and sunshine.
We had the day off today. We're like, we have to come out. We have to get that summer feeling, and it's definitely feeling like summer today.
But as inviting as it may look, officials want people to be aware that local rivers are still extremely cold.
We want to make sure people keep an eye out for kids in these cool waters and make sure people are wearing life jackets in any body of water that may have currents going. Unfortunately, we lose people every year to drowning in these dangerous waters.
Marine Deputy Jason Tyrus with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office says water this cold can actually shock your body if you jump in.
Right now the water's running at 55 degrees, so you're going to get that cold water shock if you jump in, where you gasp, and that's when you're most dangerous. So you got to really calm your breathing so you don't suck in too much water and have that a drowning effect.
We did find some people who eased their way into the water at High Rocks on the Clackamas River.
Definitely that shock, you know. It's probably, 40, 50 degree water. It's very, very chilly.
It's been very cold lately, and I've been very pale, so I came out here to get a tan, but it got really hot, so I decided to slide into the water. I didn't jump in, nothing. I got right back out because it was super cold.
Some, however, wanted no part of the chilly water.
No, no, no thanks. I'll let the ducks enjoy that.
Well, if you are planning to come out to High Rocks this weekend, just be aware that AMR's River Rescue Team will not be patrolling this part of the river until Memorial Day weekend. And also of note, David, we have a cool tool on our website, KGW.com, where you can actually check river temperatures around the area. Right here on the Clackamas River, David, still a very cool 52 degrees. Back to you.
52 sounds frigid. Thank you, John. All right, stay with KGW for continuing coverage of the unseasonably warm weather. You can find up-to-the-minute forecasts on air and anytime at KGW.com and on KGW+. All right, in your headlines, of fire damage several popular businesses in Southeast Portland this morning. The spark just before 8 in a mixed-use building at Southeast 28th and Burnside. Crews say they found a fire in the basement, and because of smoke and the building structure, it took them a couple hours to put it out. Now, 50 Licks Ice Cream and a vintage clothing store and salon were all severely damaged. No one was hurt, and crews rescued a cat and reunited it with its owner. Well, you might soon see some more bicycle officers downtown as the Portland Police Bureau doubles the size of its Central Bike Squad. A new team of 5 made up of 4 officers and a sergeant will be patrolling the streets during the evenings, Wednesdays through Saturdays. That is on top of the existing 5-person team that patrols weekdays. The Bike Squad focuses on crime and livability issues in the downtown core, including things like drug dealing, stolen cars, graffiti, and vandalism. And University of Oregon officials are giving dozens of students another chance to disband their pro-Palestinian protest encampment without facing academic consequences. More than 100 students remain beyond Tuesday's deadline. Now they're being given until tomorrow to clear out or face suspension and possible expulsion. So far, officials have rejected protesters' demands to divest from Israel, cut ties with Israeli universities, and pass a ceasefire resolution. All right, speaking of protests, library staff at Portland State are breathing a sigh of relief after valuable collections there were found intact. Thomas Schultz is here. Thomas, we should mention the library will remain closed until the fall because of damage, but I'm really curious here, what'd they find?
Yeah, well, David, library staff found some treasured items like historical records and rare comic books in the library, though still, this cleanup's going to last months, and it's caused grief for staff.
Weeks after pro-Palestine protesters occupied Portland State's library, crews are still cleaning graffiti off windows. And inside,
this is a great example.
Spray paint covers walls.
The first time I saw it, it was heartbreaking.
Heather Randall is Portland State's Director of Facilities. For days, she's overseen a cleanup expected to last until the fall semester. Fire alarms.
This is part of the fire and life safety system.
Ripped down.
This was a wall.
Glass broken, TVs destroyed, walls and floors spray painted.
It doesn't really seem related to the protests.
And for days, staff worried archives would be lost.
They're just gone.
Forever.
Yeah.
Though now, Michael Bowman, the interim dean of the library, says rare books, comics, and records from Frederick Douglass have been recovered, thanks to one person who sealed off the rare book room.
There were some people in there early during the occupation, but the university archivist went in and was able to get in and kind of convince the occupiers that there was value there.
Still, while valuables are intact, trust is fractured.
And it's just been a very severe impact, kind of grief and trauma on the employees.
A really tough situation for those workers. And for now, many of those library employees are working remote. Others are scattered across campus. Now, Portland State says they're working on a temporary place to use as a library, though no decision on where has been made yet. David?
Wow, and 2 thumbs up to those that negotiated to save part of the collection there. Thank you, Thomas.
I'm Blair Best. Coming up tonight on The Story, the number of overdoses happening in Portland is showing no sign of letting up. Since Monday, Portland first responders have been called to nearly 200 opioid overdoses. We take you to the streets of Old Town where the crisis is on full display. And we talk with the fire department about what's being done about this, seeing as the 90-day fentanyl state of emergency ended last week. That's all coming up tonight at 6:30 on The Story.
And straight ahead here at 6, after all the rain, then all the sun, flowers are in peak bloom. The new effort that's bringing life to the Rose City in more ways than one. That's right after this.